Hi, Laurel.
Good morning, Brian. And Nancy, I haven't seen you for a while. And welcome to Katie. Katie, I hear that Danny graduated from high school. Dang. Congratulations to Danny and you. And Mael graduated from 5th grade. Lots of graduations these days. And I think maybe it's a little bit less restrictive than it was last graduation season. It's so great to watch the kids grow up. It's one of the best things about being part of a congregation. So let's see if Mael's like 17. I've known her since she was 7. And Mael was just a little toddler who could never get enough of me chasing her. She would just say, one more, just one more. Wow.
Yeah, I miss those days. They've gotten so big.
They are. But that's a huge thing, graduating from high school.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to have an actual graduation and party.
Well, it was in person then?
Yeah, it was outdoors, but it worked really well.
That's great. Congratulate her for me.
I will. And Levi was able to make it too.
You're kidding. I asked Francie if she thought he would come, and that's great. Okay, I guess I'll be quiet because we are starting the service in about 2 minutes. Well, a glorious good morning to all of you and welcome to the Namaqua Unitarian Universalist congregation. I'm happy to see you all this morning. We may have a little bit of a smaller crowd since it's a 3-day weekend, but a very warm welcome to those of you who are here today. Remember that we at Namaqua are a congregation of open minds, loving hearts, helping hands, gutsy creativity, and feet that walk our talk. So I am honored to serve as the minister of this passionate, curious, intelligent, justice-loving community of seekers. We are recording the service. We're still doing it on Zoom, though we do see a light at the end of the tunnel. And our Zoomer today is our ministerial intern, Claire Hammoor. So thank you, Claire, for stepping up and helping us today with our technology. And I'm wondering if we have any visitors with us today. And if so, would you please put your name maybe in the chat and we can give you a special warm welcome. And if you're interested, we can send you more information about our community. All right, so let us go ahead and officially begin our Sunday service. So Fred Schrekinger is our worship associate today. And Fred, I hear it's your birthday.
Yes.
So we begin with the joy and a happy birthday to you. And if you'll read the words, and I will go ahead and light our chalice.
We are part of a history. We are connected to a family and forebears. We are part of humanity. We are heir to all that humans have brought to the world. We are part of nature. We are what the stars are. With the kindling of this flame, come let us worship together.
And our congregational affirmation that we recite in unison every Sunday is up on the screen. So please go ahead and stay muted, but recite with me. Love is the spirit of this church and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And our opening song this morning is from our hymnal number 128. So please feel free to sing along for all that is our life.
Earth Breeze dehydrated liquidless.
I think they'll be back. I now invite you into a moment of centering and silence. The African-American poet and civil rights activist Maya Angelou wrote these words. I have great respect for the past. If you don't know where you've come from, you don't know where you're going. I have respect for the past, but I'm a person of the moment. I'm here, and I do my best to be completely centered at the place I'm at. Then I go forward to the next place. So I'd like you to take a moment to remember where you've come from. Conjure up in your mind significant people and places, events of your past. And now be a person of this moment. Do your best to be completely centered where you are. Tune in to each of your senses. If your eyes are open, what do you see? What does your body feel? What do you taste? What do you smell? Right now you hear my voice, but when I stop talking, what do you hear? Let's take a moment of silence to fully arrive. In the silence, in the stillness, we hear whispers of days gone by, where we've come from, of dreams still becoming the promise of the future. In the name of all that is holy, amen. And now Claire will share with us a story about Theodore Parker, and our Parker Hall is named after this very man.
Thank you, Laurel. I wanted to share the congregation that I first fell in love with being a UU within. Their Time for All Ages every Sunday featured a dog puppet named Theodore Parker, which I think is very funny and might be fun to bring in here once we're back together. So this is a story by Gary Kowalski, which is called What the Turtle Taught Theodore Parker. In his autobiography, Theodore Parker relates that as a child, 4 or 5 years old, living on a farm in Roxbury, he was walking through fields one day, absentmindedly swinging a stick through the tall grass. This was many years before the Civil War, and it was summertime, and he stopped to watch the water bubble along the creek, and then he noticed a turtle sunning itself on a rock. He'd seen other boys use their sticks to strike turtles and other animals, and it was part of what children thought was fun, just as some children still like to bully and hit those who are weaker than themselves. Often, children and grown-ups too are copycats, mimicking the behavior of others who seem bigger or stronger than themselves. Young Theodore wanted to be like the older boys he'd seen, so he raised the stick in the air, taking aim and prepared to knock the turtle into the water. But then something stopped him. Something seemed wrong about the situation. He looked again at the turtle, quiet, peaceful, enjoying the summer day, just as he liked to feel the warmth and light of the sun. Had the turtle ever done him any harm? Was the turtle so different than himself? Slowly, he lowered his stick and walked home thinking about what happened. And when he arrived home, his mother was there to greet him, and he told her about the incident. She listened carefully to Theodore and listened especially carefully when he related how some strange force inside had stopped him from hitting the little animal. Theodore, she said, that force inside you was the voice of conscience. Always pay attention to it. Always follow what your conscience tells you. It's your moral compass that points you in the right direction. And if you honor your conscience, you'll never go wrong in this world. Theodore Parker grew up to become a Unitarian minister. In fact, one of the greatest leaders our faith has ever known. He became a champion of the defenseless who needed defending. He was a hero in the fight to end slavery in our country, and he prayed to Father and Mother God and fought for women's equality right by their side to vote. He and his wife never had children of their own, but he felt a sense of kinship with the whole family of creation, people of all sexes and races who had been made in the image of the holy. And it all started one summer night when he was just a child who saw a turtle and decided to do what was right.
Thanks, Claire. And some of you may know that Theodore Parker is actually the first one who conjured up the image of the moral arc of the universe bending towards justice. And that was then adopted by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and it's become part of our vocabulary. And so now I'll invite Fred, our birthday person, to share a reflection called the Universalist University.
The idea for my reflection started when I was looking at a list of famous Unitarian Universalists. As I perused the list, I found a very unusual and unexpected name. It was P.T. Barnum of Barnum and Bailey Circus fame. Turns out he was a very avid member of the Universalist Church. He was also a philanthropist who was one of many Universalist Unitarians who founded Tufts University in Boston in 1852. Tufts is still in existence today and has always been known to be an excellent university and is still known to be so today. It is 17th of the top 100 on at least one list and has a 97% retention rate, which means very few students drop out. Part of Barnum's contribution was to pay for the Museum of Natural History on campus. When his famous elephant Jumbo died, he allowed the hide to be stuffed and mounted and displayed on the campus. As a result of the Tufts donation, Jumbo was made the mascot of Tufts University, and it's still known as the Tufts Jumbos. As we all know, Universalism means universal salvation. This was a particular interest to Barnum because he grew up as a very strict Calvinist family, where he spent his childhood being terrified of going to hell. He even tried to make a pact with God that he would be willing to die immediately if he would be guaranteed that he could go to heaven. He was born in 1810 and started attending the Universalist Church in the early 1840s. I am guessing that many of the fellow Universalists came from similar religious backgrounds as Barnum. They all may have found the Universalist Church a breath of fresh air after growing up in total fear. Universalism appeared to appeal to love of God and the belief that a loving God would not send people to hell. Universalism is called the religion of love. They were also more ordinary people than Unitarians. They were more academic, who were more academically inclined. Unitarians started as a group of thinkers who could find no rationale for a trinity. I'm guessing that Universalists were an extreme minority and therefore a very close-knit group. They were also discriminated against in some ways. One way was that they were not allowed admission to Harvard University because of liberal Christianity not being on the list of approved religions. That is part of what led to the creation of Tufts University. Charles Tufts inherited land and P.T. Barnum and others donated money, and the university was born. The seal became peace and light. It became a station on the Underground Railroad, voted to admit women in 1892, and the first Black graduated in 1909. The original curriculum was about what I think would be created by our church if we were given the opportunity. The first college was the College of Arts and Sciences. As they said at my school, that arts and science students deserve special recognition because they are students who have chosen to learn more about the world. One of the other early colleges was the College of Divinity and Religion, which opened in 1869. It had several names over the years, but it was most commonly known as Crane University of Theology. It also served as a Universalist seminary. It closed as a separate school in 1968. There is now a Department of Religion in the College of Arts and Sciences. There was also a medical school, by the way, which is also very good. In 1876, Tufts took a bold step and did what people who wanted to enjoy life might take, and founded the College of Arts and Sciences, or Fine Arts, I'm sorry, and it has been a significant part of the university ever since. Tufts has an art museum and also a long-standing alliance with Boston Art Museum. If there's an open mic night near Tufts, I'm sure that you would find Tufts students would be well represented at the situation. Tufts has a history of distinguished alumni and has been known to have diverse curriculum. Their rival is Harvard, but it is one-sided. Harvard does not recognize the rivalry. They view Tufts as Harvard wannabes and Ivy League wannabes. Tufts, I think, views Harvard as kind of arrogant jerks. Tufts probably keeps Harvard as a rival just to kind of needle them, which I think is great. Tufts is only 2.3 miles from Harvard, so they have plenty of opportunities to interact. And yes, Tufts is a party school, but it's also known for working hard and playing hard. By the way, Barnum may not have gone to hell, but he did enough bad things in his life to earn history's scorn. He engaged in other philanthropic efforts, such as children's hospitals, and he must, but by most accounts, he was a terrible human being. But at least he did one very good deed, and that's helping found Tufts University, the Universalist University. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Feet of clay. So now let's go ahead and allow you a chance to speak. We'll do our joys and sorrows with the bowl that I'll transfer pebbles into our blue bowl representing the love of this community. And Fred, I'll begin by putting in one of these glass stones to represent the joy. Happy birthday to you. And I think you're my age, right? Did you just turn 71? 72, okay. Well, anyway, happy birthday to you. If we were in the sanctuary, we would actually play the piano and sing to you. So consider yourself sung to. Happy birthday to you. And anyone else who would like to share, would you please either, well, why don't you go ahead and just put your name in the chat, and you can put your name, or if you don't feel like speaking, you can put the content. And Susan Moody thanked you, Fred, for sharing something that she found very interesting. So let's talk about, Mickey, go ahead and.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a great pleasure I had. Vaughn and I went over to Iowa, Illinois, and witnessed the graduation of my daughter with her MBA. We got to see her daughter actually exchange hugs. And then we went to the Peoria area in Illinois and saw my son, and his family and Von's sister, and we just had a marvelous time. A lot of driving, but it was well worth it.
Well, that's great, Mickey. Congratulations. And Rebecca Williamson and Tom Mitchell are joining us from Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they are overjoyed to be there. So that's great. Have a wonderful time and then come back to us. And Fran Green, unmute and share your joy.
My family is also in Santa Fe this weekend and loving going into Meow Wolf and places like that. But I want to show something my granddaughter, my oldest granddaughter, Milena, who's 12, has come up with an idea of turning dogs into humans. So she has done a picture. This is, I don't know how much it's going to show up.
See it. We can
But
see it. Wow.
This is our dog, Baguette, our little poodle, and she has become humanized. So this is the human version of Baguette. She's got white hair and great big black eyes, and she's holding a toy. So that's our dog's personality. And
That's
$25, she can do this for your dogs.
Whoa. Well, I've got a dog.
Starting a little business.
Okay, so Fran Green, contact Fran if you want to get your dog turned into a human.
Right.
Boy, she's a good artist. Yeah, thank you, Fran. And then I don't know if this is really John Lewis or if it's Marcia, because I know Marcia's from Buffalo. I was thrilled to finally spend 2 weeks with my 98-year-old mother in New York State. Wow. She's approaching 100. And now Katie Fox. I was chatting a little bit before the service started, and Danny, Katie's oldest daughter, just graduated from high school yesterday, and then her younger daughter, Mael, graduated from 5th grade. So lots of rites and passages and celebrations in the form of graduation. So congratulations. And it goes to the parents too. And Catherine, what's the bargain? Not
$5 for the picture that.
Oh,
Sorry, after I put that in there, I realized, wait, that's not going to make sense given what's happening here. So sorry.
right. No, I think that we're all impressed and tempted to take Fran up on her offer.
Yeah. And then while I'm talking, I'll just say that I really appreciated Fred's talk about Tufts, because I graduated from a small liberal arts college that also had a seminary in Oklahoma, Enid, Oklahoma, called Phillips University. It was a Disciples of Christ college. And some of the things that he said about Tufts reminds me, of my college days. So I appreciated hearing that a lot.
Right. Well, thanks, Catherine. I have a feeling you might be contacting Fran. And I think, Pedro, that I did call on Mickey. Mickey, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, thanks.
Okay. And then we've got another graduation. Susan, do you want to unmute?
Yes. I went to Dallas last weekend, and I was a little nervous about doing that because Dallas is not known for their following the CDC guidelines. But I had a wonderful time, and my very handsome grandson graduated, and they had a party at the house, and I kind of stayed in a corner and visited with people I knew. But I had a wonderful time. So,
well, that's great. Thanks. And
Mhm.
Rochelle, do you want me to read it, or would you like to unmute and share your joy?
I can share it. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yep, I just started a new position at a new company this past week, and the opportunity just kind of came out of nowhere. I've been applying around at the beginning of this year because we were kind of in a financial situation where I definitely needed to be making a little bit more. So this just kind of came out of nowhere, and I felt really blessed to get it. And it looks like it's going to be a good change.
That's great. Congratulations, Rochelle.
Thank you.
Oh, and Pedro has a sorrow. Another friend of his died. And so that makes 2 friends that he's lost since January. I'm sorry, Pedro. And Shirley Rawson has a joy. Go ahead and unmute, Shirley.
My joy is that I also have a granddaughter who's graduating from high school this year, Piper, and she lives in Minneapolis area. And she's been accepted into 2 or 3 great colleges and has to make a choice now. But it's wonderful to have her be that age. I can't believe that it's been that many years.
Well, congratulations. And, you know, it's so interesting because the choice she makes about the college will determine a lot of her future path. So congratulations to you as a grandmother. Anybody else who would like to share? I always put in some extra stones to represent joys and sorrows that some of you here might have that remain, we call it, in the silent sanctuary of your heart, and also to represent the joys and sorrows beyond our community. And would you please listen for a moment? Musical response today is a song, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, that is based on a poem by Rumi. And one line that is part of the poem but didn't make it into the song is, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again, come.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, whoever you're leading, cause is no caravan, lover is standing, cause is no caravan, lover is leading, cause is no caravan, lover is standing, cause is no caravan, lover is leading, cause is no caravan, lover is standing, cause is no caravan, lover is leading, cause is no caravan, lover is standing, cause is no caravan, lover is leading, cause is no caravan, lover is standing, cause is no caravan, lover is leading, cause is no caravan, lover is leading, cause is no caravan, lover is leading. Come, yet again come.
And I saw the message from you, Hannah, that Hannah and her husband, Mike, and their little daughter, Harmony, who was born on October 31st last fall, have now moved to Denver. But it's so great you can join us. And even once we start meeting in the building again, we will have an option to join us virtually. So I would sure love it if we could dedicate little Harmony sometime when we get back in our building. All right, and now please repeat after me. In our joy and in our sorrow, we are not alone. Thank you. And our offering this quarter is going to an organization near and dear to our heart, and that is the Loveland Youth Gardeners. And so one of our young members, Aiden Christensen, is participating. And so please be generous. You can either donate online, Claire just posted the donate button, or you can always send your donation to the church. And so as we receive the offering, enjoy a song by one of our favorite composers, the UU Peter Mayer, who wrote Blue Boat Home and Everything is Holy Now. And this is a new one that inspired people to get out the vote.
If you wanna shout, wanna right something wrong, you can sing about it in a righteous song. And if you wanna way to raise your voice up high, you can be a singer in the justice choir. If you are a citizen heavy of heart, you can take a tenor or an alto part. You can be a flame in a great big fire. You can be a singer in the justice choir. Sing out, make a better world, make a sound wave like a flag unfurled. Sing out like a liberty bell, ring out the truth you tell. Sing out, make it be known, sing like the trumpets of Jericho. Sing out at the tyrant's wall, sing until the last brick falls. Sing about courage in the face of fear. Sing about light when the darkness nears. Sing about truth to the shameless lie. Sing about freedom in the justice choir. Sing about the weak in the halls of power. Sing about the earth in a desperate hour. Sing about the poor when the rich conspire. Sing about love in the justice choir. Sing out, make a better world, make a sound wave like a flag unfurled. Sing out like a liberty bell, ring out the truth you tell. Sing out, make it be known, sing like the trumpets of Jericho. Sing out at the tyrant's wall, sing until the last brick falls. If you wanna shout, wanna right something wrong, you can sing about it in a righteous song. And if you wanna way to raise your voice up high, you can be a singer in the justice choir.
Woo! And to bless our offering, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings, to the vision of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community. So, do you want to be a singer in the Justice Choir? If you want a way to raise your voice up higher, you can be a flame in a great big fire. You can be a singer in the Justice Choir. Sing about freedom, sing about love, sing about truth in the Justice Choir. We can all sing out at the tyrant's wall, sing out until the last brick falls, sing about truth to the shameless liar. We can be singers in the Justice Choir. So can't you hardly wait until we can sing again in person in our sanctuary? And when we get our first ever hired music director, let's hope that they can help us sing out to make a better world, make us all singers in the Justice Choir. And actually the good news is that you already are in the Justice Choir. From our Unitarian history, we have inherited a passion for justice. In our Unitarian Universalist tradition, it is this world, this imperfect world, full of traumas and tragedies, full of beauty and joy. This is the world we have. This is the world that we say is of ultimate importance. There is no other world, no other life but this life, in which we can find meaning and purpose. So you may know that we come from a long line of prophetic people who have found a way to bend the arc in this world toward justice, who have been driven by a strange faith, not a creed or a dogma, but in an ever-evolving, passionate love of this world, in an ever-widening embrace of the next moment, of the next horizon within us, among us, and beyond us. Holy are the places of memory, the places which have formed us, where we store the icons of success and shattered dreams and gather threads and pieces of what we would become. Holy are the places and the stories of memory. In the silence, in the stillness, we hear whispers of days gone by, where we've come from, of dreams still becoming, the promise of the future. We celebrate together our individual journeys and dreams and our collective ones, knowing that the journey is so much richer with others to share it with. So my sermon this morning is one that my minister son Marcus and I brainstormed about. It's about having pride in our strange faith, about the people we should remember and lift up, so we might be proud of the tradition of which we are a part. And I think as a religion without a creed or dogma, our history and our UU ancestors are even more important to remember. There's a hymn, some of you may know, that's often sung at ordinations and installations of ministers. It's a hymn with high church pomp and ceremony, as much high pomp and ceremony as UUs can muster. It's called Rank by Rank. Back in 2008, when I was ordained in the Oakland Unitarian Church, we sung it as pairs of my robed minister colleagues processed down the aisle of the sanctuary on the red carpet to take their seats in the pews. The lyrics that we used were adapted by the Unitarian minister Carl Seberg, who served 3 parishes in northern New England. Rank by rank, again we stand, from the 4 winds gathered hither. Loud the hallowed walls demand when we come and how and whither. From their stillness breaking clear, echoes wake to warn or cheer. Higher truth from saint and seer called to us assembled here. Ours the year's memorial shore, honored days and names we reckon, days of comrades gone before, lives that speak and deeds that beckon. From the dreaming of the night to the labors of the day, shines their everlasting light, guiding us upon our way. Though the path be hard and long, still we strive in expectation. Join we now their ageless song, one with them in aspiration, one in name, in honor one. Guard we will the crowd they won. What they dreamed be ours to do. Hope their hopes and seal them true. What they dreamed be ours to do. Hope their hopes and seal them true. The original version of the song was written by John Huntley Scrine, and it was at the height of the British imperialism at the end of the 19th century. And if you know the tune, you know the imperial march feel to the whole thing. I really love some of the language from our UU version. The title of this service, What They Dreamed Be Ours to Do. It puts me right in that justice choir, spanning across time and space, ours one little moment in the sprawling history of people sharing life's journey and celebrating many paths and doing their best, doing our best to act and make a difference, to make a better world, to be singers in the justice choir. But the history of our faith also points to the complexity of our heritage. As Fred was talking about P.T. Barnum, who did a wonderful thing that remains, but as Fred said, he was a terrible human being. And we have terrible things in our history, and we all were in the context of our time. But there is indeed much to be proud of as Unitarian Universalists. And as we consider who we are and who we are becoming, really who we are called to become, what the world needs us to become, we know that we're not there yet. we know that we're still building that new way and still working to be free. And actually, I think some of us have some angst as a people about whether we're up to the task, because it's huge, about whether we can really live into the promise of our faith. I'm glad on this Memorial Day to remember a few people from our history, people who we might take pride in, who might have some guiding wisdom to offer on our journey of becoming. Because our becoming as individuals and as a community is always rooted in who we have been in the past. As in the words of Maya Angelou that I shared earlier, you can't really know where you're going until you know where you've been. The two men I've chosen to remember this morning are people who I imagine not many of you have even heard of. Our history includes many highly educated white men of great privilege who courageously stood by intellectual freedom in the face of sometimes brutal consequences. Michael Servetus comes to mind. How many of you have heard of Michael Servetus? So a few. He's a Spanish theologian and doctor of the 1500s who, after the printing press made the Bible widely accessible, was shocked to discover that it did not contain a single mention of the Trinity, which is a cornerstone of the dominant theology at that time, and even still. So we can think of Servetus as a proto-Unitarian. His ideas critiqued the Trinity and the concept of original sin, and his commitment to bring reason to bear on Scripture inspired the movements in Poland and Transylvania that eventually took hold. And these are some of our roots. In 1531, when he was 20 years old, he published a book called On the Errors of the Trinity. And this book drew tremendous ire from both Catholics and the burgeoning leaders of the Reformation of Martin Luther and John Calvin. Servetus had to go into hiding and conceal his identity. He returned to the study of medicine, where he made a significant discovery about the function of pulmonary circulation. While he was in France, a close friend of Calvin denounced Servetus as a heretic. He was arrested by the Roman Catholic authorities and imprisoned, but somehow he was able to escape. Then only a few months later, he attended a sermon by John Calvin in Geneva, where he was arrested, imprisoned, and burnt at the stake on top of a pyre of his own books. I remember when I was learning about all this in seminary, and I was telling some friends about this dispute between Calvin and Servetus. And after I described Servetus being burnt at the stake, one of them wondered out loud, couldn't they have just agreed to disagree? And this sentiment is one way to express a key value of Unitarian Universalism, that we don't have to think alike to love alike. Over the years, many have considered the cornerstones of Unitarian Universalism to be the values of tolerance and of freedom and reason. And while these are beautiful principles, I think that some of our most transformative figures have coupled their commitment to tolerance, freedom, and reason with something less of the head and more of the heart, who had an embodied faith in the abiding force of love, of being aligned with the values of joy and of justice. One such figure is Joseph Tuckerman. So how many of you have heard of Joseph? Oh, it's Tuckerman. So Tuckerman was born in 1778, and he was actually roommates at Harvard with his lifelong friend, William Ellery Channing, who is often credited as being the primary founder of Unitarianism. He was a minister of a very hoity-toity kind of congregation in Boston. Well, according to Channing, Tuckerman was what he called an indifferent student, passing his 3 years at Harvard as a holiday. But Tuckerman did graduate in 1798, and after some additional study, he was called to ministry in a quiet farming village where he served for 25 years. But what I find most notable about his ministry was the pastoral care he offered to sailors and their migrant families. It was these seeds that would grow into an at-large ministry, a community ministry in Boston, eventually institutionalized as the Benevolent Fraternity of Unitarian Churches. The Faithful Fools Street Ministry in the Tenderloin of San Francisco, where I did my internship, regarded Joseph Tuckerman as an inspiration and model for their vision of ministry with the homeless, seeking personal change through creating relationships that then can create deep social change. Here's the Faithful Fools mission statement. We are called to a ministry of presence that acknowledges each human's incredible worth. Aware of our judgments, we seek to meet people where they are through the arts, education, advocacy, and accompaniment. We participate in shattering myths about those living in poverty, seeing the light, courage, intelligence, strength, and creativity of the people we encounter. So Claire, I wonder if you have in your mind and heart a similar mission statement as you work with the incarcerated. So like Channing and other Unitarians, Tuckerman in the 19th century and now the Faithful Fools in the 20th century and 21st place value on the vast potential in every person. The process of growing and becoming as essential and divinely inspired, that is the quality of humanity that they believed in and that guided their ministries. Tuckerman, who identified as a Christian, said that Christianity, quote, would make the hewer of wood and the drawer of water, the mere drain digger and the scavenger, morally as complete a being as it would make the most exalted minister of religion. It would make the servant as morally perfect as their master. End quote. In the decades of Tuckerman and the generations later, there have been so many others whose lives were dedicated to this heart-centered vision of how to make a better world. Singers in the Justice Choir. And this morning, we've just scratched the surface. There's so many people to remember. And I think of how many people whose stories we will never know. The countless voices in the Justice Choir singing their small but necessary part, enriching the world with their lives. In times like these, our small voices can feel tiny. Even our collective voices, as you use, can feel inadequate to the task in front of us. And so I take heart in being reminded that I'm part of the Justice Choir that has been singing for centuries and will continue the song long after I'm gone. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief, the Jewish Talmud instructs. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. Do justly now, love mercy now, walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. So we're all part of the Justice Choir. May it be so. And our closing song is a passionate one called The Fire of Commitment. So feel free to sing along.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
And now Fred will read our extinguished chalice words, and I'll put out our flame.
As we extinguish our flaming chalice, may we remember that stories are for joining the past to the future. Stories are for late hours of the night when you can't remember how you got from where you were to where you are. Stories are for eternity, when memory is erased, when there is nothing to remember except the story.
Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. And as we remember our ancestors, may what they dream be ours to do. Uh-oh, I was muted. What, did you hear my benediction? I repeated the Jewish Talmud words and ended with the title of our service today. May what they dream be ours to do. So next week, we have a special service. Our dear Trish Murtha will be moving back east. And so we are doing a service called Happy Trails. And so Trish and I next week will be here on Sunday morning. And I hope to see you and the rest of the congregation come and say a warm farewell to Trish. As for the auction, Doug Stewart is on a backpacking trip this weekend, but he told me before he left that he'd run into some problems with the auction software and that we may need to delay it again. But since I can't get a hold of him to confirm it, at this point, keep it penciled in for next Saturday evening on June 5th. And we will send out an email when he gets back to either confirm that date and time or else pick another date in the future for us to have our auction. Very unusual times. And thank you to Doug for taking on the task of being able to hold our auction virtually this year. And so now, Claire will go ahead and create some breakout rooms and you'll have a chance to socialize for about 15 minutes. So enjoy the weekend and I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.